Unless
You know who is asystematic?
Who?
Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
That's a dad joke for you. Good morning, everybody. It is December 29th, 2021. I'm here with my fellow Flock Squawk hosts, Chad Cummings, Brad Cummings, and myself, Ben Super. Thank you for all the new subscribers we got over the weekend. We appreciate your support. And I think it would be appropriate. We got the news this morning that an absolute NFL icon and legend of the game, John Madden, passed away at 85 years old today. So I think people saw this coming, right? Like, I think John Madden's health was kind of in decline. I think people knew about it. The All Madden documentary just came out on Christmas Day on ESPN Plus. I have not seen it yet, but I fully intend on seeing it. And I mean, what a legend, man. This guy was around in the 70s when guys were hitchhiking to fucking games because they couldn't afford cars. And his two rules were like, don't be late and give me everything that you got. He has a 75.9% win percentage as his coach for the Oakland Raiders. They're the Vegas Raiders now. And he won a Super Bowl. Then he retires at 42, goes into broadcasting and becomes a fucking legend, right? Broadcasts for like 3 decades, covers 11 Super Bowls. My favorite call of his was when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. And he goes and wins the game-winning drive to set up Adam Vinatieri. And John Madden goes, man, what Tom Brady did just gave me goosebumps. Like, what a call. Now that we know what Tom Brady is now, it's such a prophetic thing. The Madden video games, we've all played them. Like, this guy's a fucking legend, dude. Rest in peace to John Madden. You guys have anything to say or like anything that you remember the most from his legacy in football?
I'd say, I mean, obviously rest in peace. And prayers and thoughts to his family, friends, and the NFL community as a whole. Absolute legend. Obviously, everybody here has played Madden games. I remember him in Little Giants?
Yeah.
When he was coaching him up. Blucher, the coach, had John Madden come in and give the kids a little pep talk, I believe. Yeah, I mean, he's when you hear Madden, you think of NFL, and he really was an advocate for the game and a game that we love. So rest in peace to the dude, and prayers to his family for sure.
For sure. Brad, you have anything?
I remember, not that it was a funny situation, but yeah, Casey goes to me and goes, was he any good? And I was like, I mean, they named a video game after him, like the biggest game out there for the football. And she just started laughing. But no, definitely rest in peace.
All right. Hey, that's our tribute. Rest in peace to John Madden. Okay, let's get into the Flock Squawk podcast portion. I've been trying to avoid it all day. I told Brad, I said I was going to be honest with you guys. I normally, before I do Flock Squawk, I take time to look at the highlights of the game to give myself sort of a refresher on what happened and to be a little more prepared going into the podcast that I do with you guys. But I will be completely honest with you. I did not watch the highlights for this game. Yep. All the things that I'm thinking and all the things that I'm experiencing right now, I didn't need to rewatch the game. And frankly, it would have been painful if I did. Yeah. Because what the Bengals did to the Ravens on Sunday, I mean, it was absolute, utter devastation, right? It was like Joe Burrow puts up 525 yards passing. The final score, 41-21, throws 4 touchdown passes, couldn't be stopped in the first half. It was really, really hard to watch. So Brad, we'll start with you, like general impressions of the game. And are you just as depressed as I was by the outcome?
Definitely depressed. I wasn't expecting to be another blowout. I think the best case scenario is at least we know that all the people we're putting under center can run our offense, which is pretty tight. I mean, obviously it's a big deal because he threw 525 yards. I think it was a record that he broke with that with his game. But there's a lot to be said with Johnson coming in and getting. I mean, we saw him do it with the Jets. Came in and threw 3 touchdowns. I forget the guy that was starting to ended up getting hurt. Comes and then throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns against the actual Bengals starting defense. So I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. I know that we're knocked out of think we got knocked out of the playoffs. We had a wild card spot for about all of half a day until Miami went and beat freaking New Orleans Monday night. But yeah, man, it was definitely a terrible game.
Chad, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when we made our game picks last week, we were still unsure if Lamar was going to play, and we obviously thought Huntley would be available if we did play. And I believe maybe 4 more people were added to the COVID list since our last podcast last week when we made our predictions. So once Saturday morning, once we found out Huntley, well, we knew at that point, we already knew Lamar wasn't going to play. And he wasn't even traveling with the team. And then we heard that Huntley was on the COVID list. So from that point on, I was like, well, we're definitely not winning tomorrow because we got Josh Johnson, who's been on the team for 10 days. I'm not surprised that Cincinnati blew up our defense because the week before, the Packers put up 31. And we lost, since the Green Bay game, we lost multiple people to COVID lists. So our secondary was even more depleted Cincinnati than we were against the Packers, which is hard to believe because how depleted we were against the Packers. Plus, we were missing 2 of our pass rushers, McPhee and Houston. Our team is depleted, man. Like, what can you do? When that news came out Saturday, I was like, well, there goes our division. I was happy with the teams, the way they played still though, because Josh Johnson on that first drive got us down to a touchdown with a couple big catches by Mark Andrews and Bateman. So he ran that offense pretty well. So is it concerning or is it a good thing that Huntley and Josh Johnson have run our offense so well and Lamar has kind of struggled the 3-4 games before then? I don't know. It seems like there's a lot more efficiency with the passing game since Lamar has been hurt. I don't know what that means, but
he was just in a slump for sure.
Yeah, a lot of things that we could hang our hat on with our, JV team, but it is what it is. I mean, we weren't going to win it. As Ravens fans, we still watched it and still hoped and still had faith, but you can only overcome so much, man.
I'm going to give you an analogy for this game that I was thinking of. So imagine you have like a best friend, right? He's a guy you grew up with your entire life. And you've seen his ups, you've seen his downs, you were at his wedding, you were there when he got a promotion at work. You love the guy, right? Recently, he's broken his arm. He's on crutches. He's hobbling around. He's not looking too great. You take him to the bar and he sees a guy over there that he hates. He's a guy that he's not a huge fan of. And he starts talking shit to him, right? He's in no position to talk shit because he's got a broken arm and he's got a broken leg and you love your friend. So you're like, hey man, I don't know if we should necessarily be picking a fight with this guy. He looks pretty well rested. And, it goes on. And then before you know it, the guy just comes over and snatches your friend by the collar and starts leading him to the front. And you're like, oh shit, like my friend is about to get his ass kicked, right? But at this point, a crowd's got up, they're going to the door, they want to see the fight, and you're just trapped behind all these people. And your best friend is just getting his fucking ass kicked. He's got a broken arm, broken leg, and this guy is beating him over the head with a chair and leaves him in a bloody mess. And there's nothing you can do. Finally, the crowd disperses, you go up to the guy, and he's just laying there, and everyone's talking about, oh man, did you see what that guy just did to that guy? Holy shit. And he's your best friend and you're just sad about it because there's nothing you can do about it. The guy with the broken arm was the Ravens. Wink Martindale was talking shit to Joe Burrow about Joe Burrow prior to the game, saying, oh, I'm paraphrasing, of course. We're like acting like we should give this guy a gold jacket already. Joe Burrow heard that and said, okay, roger that. Like, you have no one on defense. I don't know why you're talking so much. And he goes out and he lays 525, 4 touchdowns. Just an absolute decimation from a defense that was already fucked up. And you had to watch the whole thing and there was nothing you could do about it. I guess we should go into the specifics of the game and I guess we should be more positive. So let's start with the offense. Brad, I agree with what you said in terms of, like, it feels good to know that Josh Johnson can go in there and make plays when they need to. They got Rashad Bateman involved early. He got his first touchdown catch of the season. There are things where it makes my Lamar Jackson radar go up because I'm like, Josh Johnson has been in this offense for 10 days. He's had some experience with the Ravens before, but not this offense, I don't think. And he goes out there and does pretty well. 328 for 40, 304, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 1 sack. Threw the ball away when he needed to. The run game was pretty non-existent, but Mark Andrews had a $125. James Prochet had 7 catches for 76 yards. Yeah. Bateman 4 for 26 and a TD. So the offense looked way different. I guess the answer to your question is I think there's some things that are clicking offensively, but the defense just can't counteract any of that. You got to prevent teams from scoring points on you. I'm glad that we're getting offensive momentum with some of these guys, but Chad, we'll start with you. What were some moments for you where you thought to yourself, okay, we were getting something cooking on offense? Was there anything in particular? I love that we got Rashad Bateman involved early.
Yeah, I'd say, the first drive, getting Rashad Bateman, involved on those, and then just a quick pass game, the hurry up offense. And it definitely caught Cincinnati off guard. Obviously, they were not expecting a guy that was 10 days on the team being able to run on hurry up offense. And I think that really got diminished, unfortunately, with that first fumble on 3rd and 1 on the second drive. So we scored, we're up 7-3. They scored a touchdown, so it was 10-7, and then we got the ball, and we were driving just like we were at the previous series. And it comes to 3rd and 1, and Josh Johnson fumbles the snap. And I think that's when the momentum part where the momentum, went towards Cincinnati. Yeah, the quick pass game and Josh Johnson's decision-making, it really worked out, especially he only took 1 sack. When Lamar's in there, he's taking 3 or 4 sacks a game. Seeing that we have that quick passing offense, and then even the 2 games prior with Tyler Huntley, he was able to do the same thing, is promising. So hopefully this, 3-game losing streak that Lamar is watching on the sideline, hopefully he's taking notes and kind of adjusting his game for if he's available this week or not. It's the same offensive line, and the opposing team's sack production has been minute compared to when Lamar's playing. Lamar's taking 3 or 4 sacks a game, and we've only had a few sacks these last few games. So Lamar is an MVP player. He's young, he's getting better, and he's going to learn, and he's going to lead us to a Super Bowl eventually. That's the positive from this so far, is seeing the offense run quick and efficient and not taking those kind of sacks.
Isn't it weird that our no huddle offense is better than our slowed down, take your time offense? That is just so fucking strange to me. Brad, do you have anything to add to that? How do you think the offense looked?
Yeah, they look pretty good, but like Chad said, it's because they're getting a ball out quick, not allowing themselves to get sacks. Really, just Johnson, when he was put into a situation, he knows to throw the ball out of bounds. Don't take the sack in certain situations where Huntley or Lamar Jackson will sit there and try and make the play, which is cool. That's how we've become the 8-win team that we are, is Lamar Jackson making plays last longer and find people downfield, but a lot of times it hurts us just as much. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, like Chad said, they're not taking so many sacks. I think the only game that we had a backup come in, took a big amount of sacks, I think it was Chicago. And I think we took hella sacks there when Huntley started that game. Hopefully Lamar, like Chad said, is taking note, and he'll come in whenever he's ready. And maybe if we win these last 2 games, we actually can get into the playoffs and make a playoff push.
Did you guys think it was strange that he didn't travel with the team?
I think during COVID times, it's standard. We're having a COVID breakout. Why have your star quarterback who's not going to play travel with a team that is having COVID issues? Stay home and, isolate yourself so you're not going to get to contract the virus. When you're having a COVID issue like this, it makes no sense for you to travel with the team. And that's what I'm assuming is why he didn't travel with the team.
So you don't think it's injury related at all? You think it's just a matter of they don't want him to get exposure from COVID, so he just didn't travel with the team and they kept him at home? Is his injury, because they've been pretty hush-hush about it, right? They said it was a bone bruise. I don't know how long it's not a break. I'm not a fucking doctor, but I don't really know. Is a bone bruise, I guess, on his ankle if he's running. I think it's interesting that you guys mentioned the fact that he can watch somebody else sort of run the same type of offense and get pointers off of that. I just feel like his playing style, he's been playing the same way since he was a kid in Florida. You know, I imagine we saw videos of him in the off season, like playing football on the beach. I guarantee you he's been doing that his entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always bring this up, but like he's going into a contract year. And if you're starting to notice these trends where every year his completion percentage goes down since he took over as a starter, it's still in the 60s, but it's gone down over the past 3 years. With that, and then now you have all these other backup quarterbacks kind of getting second shots and really running the offense efficiently. Mark Andrews looks better than ever.
Yeah.
He's stopped dropping the ball. This is his second game with at least 130 yards, right? Receiving.
Mhm.
I mean, that's obviously working. Rashad Bateman got involved early. There's a lot of things that you can point to, but I just feel like when it comes to Lamar Jackson's negotiations, I think this season is going to be, do they use this as like a throwaway season because he got hurt? Or do you think watching other quarterbacks run the offense efficiently is going to hurt him when it comes to negotiating his contract? Because we're already cap strapped to begin with. This is going to be a very important negotiation for him.
The fact that we're losing is in his benefit when it comes to that. I mean, yeah, the offense is running a little bit smoothly here and there, but we haven't won a game, and we won games with him. So it's all about the W's. But I don't see where the argument is that he isn't the highest paid quarterback in the league after this season. He had huge comeback wins. His team isn't in a playoff position only because he got hurt.
Right.
The last 3 games, if we had Lamar, I mean, I have full confidence that we have a chance to win all those games. I don't see how this really hinders him much because of an injury, and then some of the players are playing well without him. It just shows that Huntley is a really good player.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I think that's the biggest thing is that Huntley is a legit QB. He could be a legit QB1 in the league, is what I think that really shows. And Josh Johnson, he's a vet. He's been in the league for so long. He should be able to throw the ball, and he obviously showed that he could.
I don't think we're in a better position, to be honest with you, in any of the 3. Well, only 2 games, because the 3rd game he actually played in and we lost to Pittsburgh on the 2-point conversion, so that one's out. But if you take the last 2 games, Huntley came in, outperformed Baker, and really, I mean, he played. They said it was pretty on par, if not better, than what Lamar's numbers would have been or have been over the last year. And we just barely lost that one. Green Bay game, he came in, balled out, 3 for 2, and then rushed for 2, and pretty much was on par with Rodgers. But I don't think with Lamar Jackson, I don't think we actually win that game. I don't think it really was any difference. And I'm thinking this last game, Johnson or Jackson, either way, I think we were going to get our butts whipped. Just the way our defense is playing, and we're playing against throwing quarterbacks the last 2, now going into our 3rd week against the Rams. I don't see it really being much of a difference. It's just our defense is just so decimated.
Yeah, let's talk about the defense. Let's switch over to that. So we got reports earlier this week that Tyus Bowser is going on to the COVID list. Mm-hmm. So we got that to deal with. We've been talking about him as sort of like the guy that people are looking at for leadership on this team. I think it's him, and Justin Houston, I think, plays a role as well. But I think it's mainly Tyus Bowser. So he's going to be out for the Rams. I don't see how I don't see how this defense, if they can't cope with Jamar Chase, how are they going to cope with Cooper Kupp? If they can't deal with Valdez-Scantling, how are they going to deal with Van Jefferson? Like, I feel like this is a really bad matchup for them. We'll talk deeper about the matchup later, but where are they going to look to for guys? I mean, do we know of anybody who's coming off? I think Chris Westry is coming off the COVID list, but it's looking pretty dire. Our defense, we have no functional defense right now. And that's just not something you have on your team when you're making a playoff push. So there's not much to say, right? I mean, Chad, like, what are we going to do on the defensive side of the ball to mitigate these last 2 games that we have? Because I don't think the Pittsburgh game is going to be a walk in the fucking park either, by the way. Yeah. It's Ben Roethlisberger's potential last game as a Steeler. It doesn't look good, and I don't really know what the answer is for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, our defense is depleted, dude. I mean, we had our 2 outside cornerbacks were Kevon Seymour and Darley Worley, 38 and 29. Like, those are our 2 outside cornerbacks guarding Higgins and Jamar Chase. We had another starting cornerback go down with an injury. in the first quarter. Anthony Averett rib took a knee to the rib, probably broke his ribs. He's probably not going to be able to play this week. So it's like, what can you expect? Chuck Clark came back, but he's been a pretty I don't know.
Shoddy this year.
We haven't been. Chuck Clark has been pretty shoddy all year. We've talked about that. Like I'm looking at the defensive lineup that we had. And we were missing Metabikwe. We were missing 2 of our pass rushers. Like we were missing so many people. With the new COVID CDC guideline change and the NFL implemented it yesterday, we got back Justin Houston, Chris Board, and Christian Welch, which are 2 inside linebackers, and we got back Geno Stone from the COVID list. We after the Cincy game, we added Tony Jefferson, who I think played really well. He's happy. He obviously knows the defense, and him coming back, he had 5 tackles, 4 assists. He had a sack. He had a tackle for a loss. He didn't play at all the first half, but the second half, they put him in there, and he was all over the place. So I don't know if he factors in, but he was put on the COVID list after Cincinnati, and so was Tyus Bowser, who you just mentioned, who was, I think, our best pass rusher currently, even though he has pretty, small numbers, but he's still our best pass rusher on our team. We got some good news and we got some bad news. We had 6 people come off the COVID list, but we added 2 back. Looks like I can't imagine Anthony Averett's going to play, so I think we're still stuck unless Jimmy Smith and Chris Wesley come off the COVID list. And then with the new COVID thing, it's 5 days isolation if you're asymptomatic. And that doesn't even, that includes unvaccinated and vaccinated. So vaccination status doesn't matter anymore. So we don't have to worry about if any of these guys are vaccinated or not. We'll see, man. Our defense is shot. What can you say? Our offense is going to have to step up and score a lot of points because, like you said, we're playing, Matthew Stafford and Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp. They're going to put up a lot of points. So, and I don't think our defense with the injuries and COVID situations are going to, do much. So we need Lamar back. And we just got a notification that Lamar practicing today.
Nice.
Ravens QB to practice on limited basis for the first time today.
Nice.
That's positive.
That is positive. Yeah, and on a Wednesday too.
Yeah, on a Wednesday. So that's really good. And the new COVID restrictions, hopefully, even if Lamar's not ready, hopefully Huntley is back. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're 5 days in. So hopefully, if he falls under this why am I not saying that right? Asymptomatic. If he falls under that umbrella, he should be good tomorrow.
You know who is asymptomatic?
Who?
Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
That's a dad joke for you.
Nice. Our defense is not going to help us win any games. Just because how depleted we are. So
how can I just say something like how crazy is it that we take it as a win that Geno Stone, who prior to the season would have been like the 2nd or 3rd safety, we're like, oh, Geno Stone's coming back. Oh, we're going to be much better. It's like, dude, it is dire in Baltimore when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Brad, it's kind of funny too because they made it seem like what Joe Burrow did was this act of a cerebral quarterback, Brad, what do you think of the narrative? Because all I saw on ESPN was, oh my God, isn't it crazy that Joe Burrow threw for 525 yards? He sets this single game passing record or whatever. And it's just dude, who is he playing against? You know what I mean? What do you feel about that?
He's playing against, Chad said, our JV team, so I'm not really that impressed with it. Everybody's put up numbers against us. Carson Wentz put up 400 and something against us when we had more of our starters on the field than earlier in the season. Granted, that wasn't every time, but still. Joe Burrow's good. You can't take anything away from him, but he threw it against our beat up defense, and it took them throwing the ball all the way into 1 minute left to get the job done. So it is what it is. I'm happy that they went for the record, though. That's cool. They let them do that. They asked Harbaugh about it. How do you feel about them passing all the way down to the end? He's like, hey, they play their plays, we play ours. He can't really say much since what was it, Denver, when we went for that rushing record. Mm-hmm. So he really couldn't say much about it. But Joe Burrow is awesome. He's going to be in the league. And he's probably one of those next dudes, or is already one of those next dudes to make a statement with his career, the rest of his career ahead of him. He's only two years in, so I'm excited to watch him keep playing. I just hope it's a little nicer on our Ravens in the future.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, when I say that, I'm not bagging Joe Burrow here. I just think that some context is important when you look at certain performances. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, I think I told you guys in the beginning of the year, I was like, dude, Joe Burrow's a stud, man. Like, he is going, we've traded. I think what's happened with the AFC North is like, we're going to trade all the problems that Ben Roethlisberger gave us. And all of those problems are going to go to Joe Burrow, I think, at least for the next couple of years until Pittsburgh figures out a quarterback situation, which might be sooner than you think. I mean, there's been a lot of reports linking Aaron Rodgers over there. And everyone says that he'd be perfect in their offense. Russell Wilson is probably not going to be there because and Seattle, because Pete Carroll just signed a 3-year extension on his contract. So more than likely, if they're going to blow that up, Russ is going to be gone. So you have all these quarterbacks on the market. And again, I know the quarterback class in the draft is quote unquote bad this year, but like with the draft, it's just an evaluation of talent. You don't know how those guys are going to be in the NFL. We've seen quarterbacks have huge reversals, and we've seen first round draft picks like Jamarcus Russell who completely bomb out of the league. So who knows? Maybe they find a quarterback later in the first round, like Kenny Pickett or something like that. And maybe they can work with that. But I think for now, Joe Burrow is like, that guy is a guy, man. This is going to be a problem as long as he is healthy. I think we're transitioning into a new AFC North, which brings us to the discussion about playoffs, right? Like, do you guys want to talk about this now? Because a lot of crazy shit has happened in the past week. Miami somehow is the 7th seed. And I was telling Brad before the podcast, I was like, you remember a few weeks ago when I was like, hey, should we be worried about Miami? They've been winning a lot of games. It seemed like they had such an outside chance and they weren't really playing anybody good. And now here they are. They're at the 7th seed. They've won 7 games in a row. So I think that's kind of interesting. Baltimore's on the outside looking in still, and I don't think that that's going to change. Do you guys feel optimistic about the next 2 games? We've got we're home for both of them. The LA Rams come to town and then the Steelers come to town. So how do we feel about our playoff chances right now? Brad, we'll start with you.
I don't really see there being much of a chance. We're already outside. We have a divisional game that comes up, the last game, and then we got the Rams this week with the high-powered offense. I don't really see they're going to put up numbers against us next week, and I don't think that we're going to go point for point with them. With Huntley, with Jackson, with Johnson, doesn't matter who it is. I don't think it's going to happen. 1-1 is a hopeful 0-2 for the rest of the year, and then we don't make playoffs. Because even if we lose out, Miami loses out, and everybody else loses out, we're in the same position because Miami has a tiebreaker. I lost hope with playoffs after.
Chad?
Yeah. We have to win both games. I'm more confident about the Steelers game than I am the Rams game. If we don't have Tyler Huntley or Lamar Jackson next week, like we did this week, then there's no chance. I think Tyler Huntley gives us a chance. And I think obviously Lamar gives us a chance if he plays this week to, keep up with the Rams scoring, because our defense is not going to stop the Rams offense from scoring. They're going to get at least, 3 or 4 scores. So, I'm confident that our offense can keep up with that if Lamar is in there and also if Huntley is in there. So I'm not as doom and gloom as it seems like you guys are, but that's all pending if we have Lamar and Huntley available. I mean, Huntley went toe to toe with Aaron Rodgers, but the only difference with the Rams, they have a better defense than Green Bay does. They have, Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks. So who is he going to be on? Probably Mark Andrews. I mean, they have him all over the place. They got Aaron Donald with our offensive line, and against Aaron Donald, and Von Miller is on their team now. Like, it's going to be a tough game I think strictly because of Rams defense. I think that's the outlier. Our defense is trash because of COVID and injuries. Our offense can hang with their offense pending Lamar and Huntley being available, but the Rams defense poses a pretty big threat with our offensive line. It's going to be tough, but I still think we have a chance. I have hope that we can win these 2 games. Definitely. I definitely have hope I think we definitely win Pittsburgh, but this game is going to be a huge test. So we'll see.
Here's what ESPN has for this matchup. So 58.3% for the LA Rams, meaning 58.3% chance they win. The spread is interesting. The spread is -3.5, which I think is kind of I'm surprised it's not like -5 or -7. And then the over-under set at 46.5, which means they think that there's going to be a lot of points put up on the board.
Yeah.
I'm not as optimistic with these last two games. I think that the Ravens end up going 0-2. We've talked about the Rams. I mean, they're averaging 27.7 points a game, and they're allowing 21.7 points per game. They best the Ravens in both of those categories. They've got 289.7 yards passing. They're good against the rush, 96.9 yards allowed per game. I think if you're under 100, I think that's pretty good. And they're decent against the pass, 262.6. And like you talked about, Jalen Ramsey's in secondary, so that doesn't really surprise me. 6-2 on the road. I just don't think that this is a game that the Ravens are going to be able to muster anybody. And like I said, we're getting excited about some of these guys that are coming back, and they were second or third string players to begin with. I mean, it is that desperate on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't really think that I can depend on this offense to get me 28 points. I know they put up 30 against the Packers, but it's outside of that, it's 21 against the Bengals, 22 against the Browns, 19 against the Steelers, 16 against the Browns, 16 against the Bears, 10 against the Dolphins, going all the way back to the game after the bye. They put up 31 or 34 against the Vikings, but really it's kind of crazy. The bye week happens, and then there's this precipitous slide with the Vikings game being the outlier. It's like we got worse after the bye week. You're going to have to at least put up 31 points against the Rams, because if we look at the Rams last couple of games, this is what they've done on offense. 30, 20, okay, against the Seahawks, a divisional foe. 30 against the Cardinals, 37 against the Jaguars, 28 against the Packers. They are able to put up points, it seems like, every single game, and I can't rely on that with Baltimore. I don't even know who the fucking quarterback is going to be week to week. You know what I mean? And then with the Steelers game, we're going to go into more coverage of that, but Ben Roethlisberger's potentially last game as a Steeler. Maybe he gets into the playoffs depending on how certain scenarios play out, because there is a world where Pittsburgh can make the playoffs. I don't think it's likely. I don't think they're the best AFC team out of this bunch right now, but with, you know, it just seems like that's a lot to ask the Ravens to overcome when they have nobody on the defensive side of the ball who can cover any of these guys. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. I guess you're right in the sense that we got to wait and see about Tyler Huntley, and we got to wait to see about Lamar Jackson, right? Like, we don't really know who's going to be the starter, but that inconsistency is just not something you're looking for a playoff team going down the stretch.
Without those two guys, honestly, we have no chance. I mean,
for sure.
Like Chad was saying, I mean, you take away the running ability of our offense strictly because those two players are not playing. You got a 30-year-old quarterback. He's not going to get you 50 yards rushing in a game, and that's what we kind of need from either Lamar or Huntley to keep us in the game.
Well, there's another thing that could keep us in the game, and that's COVID, right? But it could just as easily kick us out of a game. You know, we don't know what.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like every day there are new people getting added to the list, and that's like I've seen like 4 or 5 stories this morning alone about people getting moved around and not being available, you know? So
yeah, it's pretty big. It really does suck just know that you can go into the game and be without your number one person. Like, they could easily go to that game and Cooper Kupp just be COVID. Completely switches the game around, and that sucks.
That happened to multiple games this past week. But
I know,
we were affected. The Saints were affected. The Chargers were affected too. They were out Mike Williams. They were out Austin Eckler. COVID can touch anybody. Here's a funny. So I'm looking at ESPN's Football Power Index for the 7th seed. For the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for the 6 teams vying for the 7th seed, they gave Chargers the best chance of attaining it, 38.5%. And they give the Dolphins, who currently hold it, the least chance of obtaining it at 9.2%. Because if you look at the Dolphins' next 2 games, they got Titans and they got New England's. I don't see them winning both of them. And we are second in that percentage at 35.4%. So they're giving the Ravens and the Chargers the best probability of earning that 7th seed. For the Ravens situation, that's pending if Lamar is available, in my opinion.
I'm shocked that it's that high. I'm shocked by that. Is that just because of how the tiebreakers shake out and everything?
It's likelihood of winning your next 2 games and the tiebreakers. Yeah.
Man, that's wild to me. That I feel like people who watch Ravens games, I don't know how you come up with that. I have the Chargers at the 7th seed. Their last 2 weeks, they play Denver at home, and then they go on the road and they play Oakland, who's probably going to be shut down by then. I mean, I don't think Oakland's on the outside looking in.
Here's the next. I got it all right here. The next 2 games for all 6 of these guys. Dolphins are at Tennessee versus New England. Ravens versus the Rams versus Pittsburgh. Chargers versus Denver at Las Vegas. Vegas at Indy versus Chargers. Steelers versus Cleveland at Baltimore, and then Browns at Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. None of those look like an easy 2 and out to me for any of those teams. I mean,
I think we personally have the better outlook with trying to win at least 1 game, and those other players actually lose 2 of them. Like the Vegas game, if they end up losing this week, who do you say Vegas? They're playing Indy.
Indy's Denver. Potentially without Carson Wentz.
Yeah. So I'm saying Denver probably take Chargers this week.
Okay. That's good for us.
Yeah, Indy handle Vegas.
That's good for us.
And then I think that Vegas already knows at that point that they're out of the playoffs, and they're not going to try and let the Chargers win and make it into the playoffs. And they're going to play their hearts out and then beat the Chargers. So that'd be fucking good.
What about Dolphins, who hold the 7th seed right now?
They're not going to win. There's no way they're going to win either one of those games.
I don't think they beat Tennessee and New England.
That pick 6 is what kept them in the game, like Ben was saying before we podcast. Like, Brooks doesn't throw that pick 6, they scored, I think he said 13 points. Miami hasn't really been tested too much.
Yeah, but hasn't that been the narrative of them back when they won like 3 games in a row? I mean, you should still beat bad teams. I don't think Miami is a bad team. I just don't think that they've been playing opponents that I'm blown away by, and I can make an argument for them being in the playoffs, right? Yeah. Like, you played Ian Book, dude, a guy who refused to throw the ball away and gave you easy sacks I don't know. I'm not sold on them. I think the Chargers, I do agree. I think Baltimore can sneak in if certain things happen. Best case scenario, I think maybe they beat the Steelers. If that's the case, and the Chargers, even if the Chargers, let's say they beat Denver in week 17, if they lose to the Raiders after that, Baltimore's in as the 7th seed.
As long as they win 1, yeah.
But my point is, okay, let's say Baltimore gets in the playoffs, dude. And if we're fighting over the 7th seed at this point, this is the wildest of the wild cards, right?
Yep.
I have them playing Tennessee in the first round in Tennessee, so a rematch from last year. And they don't have the dudes that they had last year going up against the Tennessee Titans. Their run game, they've spread it out a little bit, but the run game is still just as effective as it was. Like, anything can happen in the playoffs. I get it, but I just don't see a path where it's easy for Baltimore to just go on a run. And I don't know what our defense or our quarterback situation looks like. I got LA in that 7th spot. I just don't. Poor Baltimore. Baltimore's just beat up, guys. I don't really know what else to say about it.
Poor Baltimore.
I just and it's too bad because the season had a lot of promise. We're going to do a postseason wrap-up pod where we just go through big themes, things we got right, things we got wrong.
That's not going to happen until far into January, boys, because we're making the playoffs, baby.
I like your enthusiasm. Like I said, people may question like if I'm a fan or not, dude. I could not watch the highlights for this game. I couldn't watch them.
It's tough.
It's unwatchable. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I'll talk. Really. Here's the players still on the COVID list for us.
Hey, you have a new nickname from now on, Chad. You're going to be COVID Chad. You got all the insight on COVID. I love it.
It's Twitter, man. I just follow these people on Twitter and I steal their information. So this is the people still left on COVID list. Tyler Huntley, Josh Oliver, Tyus Bowser, Justin Metabuke, and Tony Jefferson. 3 of those players are big. Justin Metabuke, Tyus Bowser, and Tyler Huntley. We need all 3 of them to play if we have a chance this Sunday. So
Fuck.
hopefully.
Speaking of which, we got to do score predictions.
Oh, well, it's tough. Can we really do it? I mean, let's do it. I know last week we made our predictions based off Lamar playing, but obviously he didn't, and Huntley didn't play, obviously. So I'm going to say if Lamar plays, we're going to lose.
Since
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
like doom and gloom. I was going to go 30-14.
30-14.
Rams. Yeah.
And is that with the caveat that Lamar is playing or not playing?
I think regardless. I just don't think the defense can keep up any points. And Lamar coming back after being out for 3 weeks, I think he's going to have to brush the rust off.
Yeah.
And I think this is not the defense that you do that against. It's not a defense that you want your guy who's been hurt for X amount of time and has a bone bruise on his ankle, of all things. Right. I don't think that outcome is going to be fortuitous regardless of who you put in there. And with a makeshift offensive line, it's going to be a long day regardless of who's sitting under center. So I got 30-14. That's just me. It hurts, but
say 34-24.
34-24. Brad, what do you got?
Close to mine. 34-31. Ravens.
Ooh. What? Ravens? Yeah. Okay,
Look,
so I like
last time
this.
Matt Stafford. Last time Matt Stafford. I only know this because I have him on my fantasy, and he lost for me this week. Got me fucking 6 points. But anyways, besides the point. Last time we had a game like this, he went back-to-back games where the next game he threw a pick six and then almost threw another pick six in the first two drives for them. So who knows? Maybe he'll do the same thing against the Ravens and a loud crowd in Baltimore. But yeah, so I'm gonna say 34-31 Ravens.
It would be a nice New Year's present.
Yeah. We would need our 6th and 7th string cornerbacks to play the game of their lives.
Say hello to Asher, everybody, on Flock Squawk. Hi, Asher.
She's sleeping. Say hi to everybody. Hi.
Hi.
This is Asher Amelia. She hasn't witnessed a Ravens win yet. Isn't that sad?
That is sad.
She's 0-3.
That has to change.
She was born the day before the Cleveland game when Lamar got hurt. And don't you dare say she's been bad luck then, because that's not true.
Whoa, I'm not putting that out there. Hell no. It will be good when she sees her first win. She's doing what I want to do, which is sleep. So I think we should call it a podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. As we said before, rest in peace to the great John Madden. Sad day for football overall with his passing. So Brad, Chad, it was wonderful to see you guys. Everybody out there, have a fantastic new year, and we will see you coming off of the Rams game, which Brad has so boldly declaimed we will win. You're like the Joe Namath of this podcast. I love it, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be a win if we want that playoff spot. So
yeah,
I hope
I've been negative enough times.
Yep, a lot at stake this week. All right, boys.
All right.
And young lady, you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and we will see you after the Rams game. Caw-caw.
Caw-caw.